What do you do when you never get that apology you think you deserve? Hey, I'm Nicole, and this is Reclaim Her. And in this space, we're talking about healing, boundaries, getting tired of everybody's and figuring out who we are now in our 50s. If you've ever said, I can't talk about this with everyone, then this is the space for you. Let me ask you something real. What do you do when you never get the apology you deserved? Not the fake apology, not the I'm sorry you feel that way, not the silence dressed up as growth. I've been guilty of that myself. The apology where someone actually says, I hurt you, I see you, and I'm really sorry. I take accountability for how I made you feel. Because truth is, a lot of us are walking around waiting for a sentence that may never come, and that waiting quietly controls our peace and our future. So today, we're going to talk about what to do when that apology never arrives and how to reclaim yourself anyway. Here's the first truth, and it might sting a little. Most people don't withhold apologies because you didn't deserve one. They withhold apologies because apologizing would require them to face who they really are. And not everyone is brave enough to do that. An apology requires accountability, humility, emotional maturity. And if someone doesn't have those tools, they don't suddenly know how to develop them just because you were hurt. So if you're sitting there thinking, why can't they just say sorry? It seems so simple, yet it's not for a lot of people. The answer may be simple and uncomfortable. They can't face themselves, and that's not a reflection of your value. Or waiting for an apology keeps you emotionally tied to someone who may never change. So you have to be willing to accept that as well. Here's where I'm going to lovingly challenge you. When you keep waiting for an apology, you're still in a relationship with that person, even if you haven't spoken in years, because waiting is a form of attachment. You're saying, when they acknowledge the pain, then I can move on. But what if they never do? Then they get to keep living freely while you stay paused emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. That's not justice. That's self-abandonment. And I know it's hard to hear, but it's important. The third truth, closure does not come from them. It comes from clarity. We've been taught that closure comes from a conversation. Sometimes it doesn't. Closure comes from clarity. Clarity sounds like, I see what happened. I see how it affected me. I see that I deserved better. You don't need their agreement to validate your experience. You don't need their apology to know the truth. The moment you stop hoping they'll be different, that's when closure begins. Real closure. Not because it didn't hurt, but because you're done. You're done negotiating with someone who already showed you who they are. The apology never came until you set boundaries that you now need to keep. Here's a powerful reframe I want you to sit with. Sometimes the apology never comes because the lesson about them wasn't changing. It was about you changing. The whole time it's all about you. The apology you never received becomes the boundary you now enforce, the standard you now live by, the access they no longer get. And all those things matter, because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that's not bitterness, that's just growth. You're not punishing them, you're protecting yourself and allowing yourself to be lighter, freer, and just to move on. And there is a huge difference. So what to do instead of waiting? Well, so what do you actually do? Here are 3 grounded steps. Acknowledge the hurt without minimizing it. You don't have to stuff down your feelings. Acknowledge it. Sit with it. Stop saying, I wasn't that bad. If it changed you, it mattered. If it hurt you, it mattered. Grieve the apology that you wanted. Write your own self a letter and apologize to yourself. Not getting it is a loss, and you're allowed to grieve what you hope someone could be. Apologize to yourself. This part is big. And forgive yourself. We say it sounds easy, but it's really hard to do. Say, I'm sorry I stayed longer than I should have. I'm sorry I ignored my intuition. I'm sorry I accepted less than I deserved. And don't leave yourself behind again either. The self-apology is often the most healing one of all. You don't need their words to reclaim yourself. Let me be clear. Healing doesn't require their participation. Peace doesn't require their remorse. Your power doesn't depend on their awareness. You reclaim yourself the moment you stop asking someone else to confirm what your soul already knows. If you're listening to this and thinking, this hit a little too close, I want you to know something. You are not weak for wanting an apology. You're human. So stop beating yourself up. But you are powerful when you decide, I'm not waiting anymore. Reclaiming yourself means choosing peace over proof, choosing clarity over chaos, and self-respect over someone else's validation. If this spoke to you, sit with it for a day or overnight and journal on it. Thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's Reclaim Her, not receiving the apology that you thought you deserved, and how to handle it. You got this. See you again next week. Bye now.